Where do you want to go home?
I don't know.
The other way was just through Canal, right?
Not through Canab, but through Colorado City.
The deputy sheriff and 2 other men arrived in Bellevue. With them, they brought a warrant signed by the governor of Illinois for the arrest of Joseph Smith and Porter Rockwell. The intent of the law officers was to carry their 2 prisoners to Missouri and turn them over to the authorities there. When a no-foo charter had been passed by the state legislature, Joseph worked hard to ensure that the city courts would have the power to issue a writ of habeas corpus. This legal document was a water weapon in protecting a person
take a drive.
She reached out and rubbed him gently on the shoulder. "How is that, Father Steve?" she asked.
What's that noise?
What noise?
That sounds like a pop pop pop.
It's just the gravel on the road.
He bowed slightly toward her and began to
Sounds like a pop can pop.
What?
Sounds like a pop can pop.
thunderously.
Yeah.
It's just gravel on the road.
Sounds like a pop can.
It's not. It's just the gravel.
This is the new podcast. Please continue listening on CD number 50. The Work in the Counter, Volume 6.
So I may or may not wear a seatbelt because it's like walking up and it almost feels like it's choking.
Well, adjust the seat if you need to adjust the seat.
Go so fast.
I'm not going that fast. I'm only going 30. It's just the washboard road makes it more rough.
Well, go well, I we're going
We're
this.
not. The washboard road has a tendency to cause that too when you're going across the washboard road. That's what happens with the washboard road.
Jessica was married to a good and decent man. Catherine was pushing herself out of the little on her own. Wasn't that joy worth repeating?
That's when
No
we
more will see
climb an elevation right here. There's more washboard road.
Far as the curse was found. He moved away from his father now, over to stand beside Lydia. Sunning his free arm around her waist, he pulled her closer to him. She looked up in surprise, but he just smiled down at her, and now sang without restraint.
Have you been this far?
Rejoice,
No, I don't think
rejoice
I have.
in the Most High.
I think it's cool. It has a railing
Like
The
stars that
guardrail?
twinkle in the
Yeah.
sky.
Yeah, there's
Never worship God.
stretchy caches along this section right here too that
on it. We
I
guess
found.
they're on the guardrail.
Majority of them are.
You haven't gotten them yet?
Yeah, I've found a lot of them.
They were
How
up
far?
behind Nathan's house, jumping
Let's
in
go
water.
tell them don't have them
Nathan
guys.
and young
I don't know.
started. And about half an hour later, Matthew came to help. About 10 minutes after that, the Benjamin joined in the noise of their absence. Together, they dumped in almost a full stacked up behind the big house that Nathan and Lydia had finally moved into during the summer.
kind of fun to bring a drone down here if we had a drone
He took one last swing
Fly the
and
drone.
stepped back.
through this area.
This right up the
I
mark.
should just maybe look at that drone.
What?
How will I see not get a drone?
Well, we need to pay off the credit card
Nathan looked at Matthew and smiled. This was so like his
laptops before we
always wanted to
decide,
know
you know,
things,
before we
always asking why.
get a drone, if we were to have them
Matthew answered,
tax return money to get a drone.
well, actually, there is a reason. Young Joshua asked. There is, Matthew said. Of course. And it's quite an interesting story. Nathan gave his father a suspicious look. Are you making this up, Grandpa? He asked. Benjamin
It's gonna
looked at
slide off.
Of course not.
Well, don't put it there, put it right down here.
Well, it's gonna go right there for right now.
Alright.
Impressed? Well, when I was a boy, when you said Indian summer, it was a dreadful phrase.
Just so you know, I'm having
Well,
fun.
that's good.
You see, when the colonists and began to take the frontier, it was a very dangerous time.
I don't care for the one road.
Many settlers yelled that there were miles, many tons Indians would attack these isolated homesteads,
What?
kill or
I said go, that's what I said.
He paused, but Joshua was hanging on his every word now. Nathan and Matthew were also listening with interest. Well, when winter came,
What?
and I'm talking about New England winters here,
Just turn this up a little bit.
Alright.
it drove the Indians to their wickiups and their lodges. All the settlers were grateful. They loved winter for that reason alone. But
Don't
if the
turn it up
weather
too
suddenly
far.
turned warm again, not for just a day or two, but long enough for the snow and ice to melt, the Indians would come out again. Thus it came to be called. He was looking at his grandson now. Indian summer, young Joshua cried. Yes, and as I say, it was not something you looked forward to. Seeing Nathan's studious look, Benjamin quickly raised one hand up. I swear, I can still remember as a little boy how the very mention of it struck fear into the hearts of some of those old settlers. That's really interesting, Grandpa, Joshua said without any trace of doubt. I'm going to ask my teacher if I can tell that in school. And do you know any other interesting things like that? Benjamin tried not to look too pleased as he gave that question some thought. Then he smiled. Well, I can tell you about a lake in the south part of Massachusetts
Oh.
with a name almost as long as the lake itself. Really? Joshua said with wide eyes. Matthew was laughing. Now I've got to ask, Bob, is this true too? Benjamin put his hands on his hips. You scoffers. Of course it's true.
Eventually I want to go
What was
that
it
way
called,
to
Grandpa?
Sigmiller Mountain.
With a grin, Benjamin looked at his grandson.
35 miles. Woo!
Now listen carefully, for this is how you have to say it. Chagagagog, manchagagog, chabanaganaga. What? Young Joshua cried, his eyes like saucers. Matthew and Nathan started to laugh. Chagagagog, manchagagog, chabanaganaga. Benjamin intoned solemnly. It's an Indian word meaning, you fish on that side, I'll fish on this side, and no one fishes in the middle. Matthew was laughing openly now. How long did it take you to learn how to say that? There was a twinkle in Benjamin's eye. Nigh on to a year, I reckon. Spell it, Grandpa. Oh, dear, he said. I haven't done that for was staring past young Joshua, eyes narrowing now to see better. They all stood around to see what it was that had caught his attention. He was fully a man now, mature, wise, slow to speak unless he had something to say. As the music started, Will remained quite serious, obviously concentrating on the step. The girl, a daughter of a recently arrived family from the east, was gazing up at him with rapturous eyes. There was little doubt about what she was feeling, but Will seemed not to notice. Lydia was watching all of this too and laughed softly. Will could about have his pick of any young lady in the city. Yes, Nathan agreed. Well, I could name you half a dozen that would like him to pick them, a deep voice said behind them. And Joseph and Emma were there. Joseph laid a hand on Nathan's shoulder and peered into the next room. What a fine young man. The reports from the brethren in England about him were very complimentary. And he's so handsome, Emma said. He looks so much like Joshua. I know, Nathan said. It's hard to remember that they aren't actually father and son. By the way, Joseph said, I was told that Joshua and Caroline are expecting another baby this summer. Yes, Lydia said, about mid-July. They are so pleased. Little Charles will be 4 in February. Caroline was starting to worry that they might not be able to have another one. And how's my little namesake doing now? Joseph said to Lydia. Doing fine, she grimaced. Except he's the biggest little pig you've ever seen. I may have to run home here in a bit to feed it again, even though I fed it just before we left. And he's how old now? He was born on the 18th of June, Nathan answered. So, just 6 months. Little boy they had lost to the ague in the summer of 1839 had been named Nathan Joseph Steed, and they had called him Little Nathan. That tragedy was now far enough in the past that Lydia had decided she wanted to use the name again when their baby turned out to be a boy. It was Nathan Joseph, only in this case they called him Little Joseph instead. And how is Jessica doing with her new little one? Emma asked. I heard there were problems.
It's interesting that they
There were for a time.
would have
The poor little
2
thing
kids
kept
named Nathan.
throwing up whatever she did. But Solomon and Father Steve gave her a blessing, and that seemed to do it. She's fine now, cute as can be. She's just a month younger
Someone's
than
coming.
little Joseph.
What?
Someone's
They're
coming.
going,
Joseph said.
they're
"I'm
going
so
south,
they're
not
happy."
north.
They are,
Going that way.
Nathan agreed. I've never seen Jessica happier. They wanted to come over here for Christmas so badly. With the baby, they thought maybe it was better if they didn't. Emma turned, going up on her toes. Oh, it looks like we need to get some more cake out. I can help you, Lydia said. As they moved away, Joseph looked around the room, his demeanor sobering. I noticed that Carl and Melissa didn't come tonight, and of course no Joshua. Nathan shrugged. Carl told Melissa he didn't mind if she came, but she wouldn't come without him. If Caroline waited for Joshua to come with her, she'd never come to anything. I've noticed Melissa at worship services again from time to time.
This is where I took that picture at right here.
I think she really missed not coming. She's still troubled by everything, but she's trying. In fact,
What?
Rebecca thought it might be a good idea if they had Mary Fielding come over and talk with Melissa. To my surprise, Melissa's agreed to that. Really? That's good. There aren't many finer women than Mary Fielding Smith. I know. Melissa told Carl and he didn't seem to mind. I think he's hoping it won't change her mind. But you know Carl. He's always been very open about the life of a sailor. Yes, that's what he told me as well. Foster seemed to read Joshua's thoughts. I brought these men with me so you'd know what kind of support we have, Steed. There's also about 200 more of us. Other members of the stake presidency, high council members, officers of the Legion, a member of the city council. Support for what? Joseph asked bluntly. He knew what had been going on in the city the last few days. The previous evening, during their traditional Sunday night supper at his father's house, Benjamin had given the family a full report. Look, Steed, Foster said, I'll come straight to the point. I understand you and your son are leaving tomorrow to go back up to Wisconsin and check on your lumber operation. We wanted to talk to you before you left. And talk. As you know, for a long time, a group of us have suspected that Joseph Smith has fallen from grace, that he no longer speaks for God, that he is a fallen prophet. Foster, Joshua cut in. By my definition, you can only be a fallen prophet if you've been a true one. I don't believe Joseph Smith is a prophet. I never have. I really don't give one tinker's damn for the church and all their foolishness. So if you're here to enlist my help in that, you're wasting your time. Chauncey Higby's face darkened and he muttered something to his brother. But Foster went on quietly, undisturbed by Joshua's sharpness. I am well aware of your feelings, Steed, but I would submit that you do have an interest in seeing Joseph discredited. I think it might go some way in influencing your wife and children in their feelings toward the church. You leave my wife and children out of this, Joshua groaned, but his eyes belied his words. This could be of interest to him after all. Foster saw it and went on smoothly and more confidently now. We are making plans to expose Joseph. When the time comes, we can use the support of influential non-members. A man of your reputation and position could be very, how shall I say it, helpful. I'm not sure of that, Joshua said, but I'm listening. Tell me what you are thinking. Now William Mark stepped forward. He was a smaller man with a pinched face and hard, narrow eyes. We need you to tell people that our lives are in danger, that Joseph Smith is trying to have us assassinated. Foster swung on Mark's, cursing, but the damage had been done. Joshua laughed right out loud. You think you're in danger because a few policemen built a fire outside your house trying to keep it warm? It was a warning, Mark's half snarled. I know the police are denying any such intent, but I'm telling you, it was a warning to me. Shut up, Marks, Foster hissed. We're not here for that. Marks was angrily, but Foster swung back to Joshua. You know about all of this? Then he snapped his fingers. Of course, your father is on the city council. Yes, that's right. He told me all about it last night. Joseph's call to the police to watch for a traitor in their midst had immediately triggered a surprising reaction among Joseph's enemies. Evidently, one of the policemen had guessed who the traitor might be and began telling people about it. In a matter of hours, surmise had become truth, and sympathizers were warning the Fosters, the Laws, and Marks that not only was Joseph onto them, but he had also ordered their assassination. You don't believe there's anything to it, do you? Somebody sneered. Thomas snorted in disgust. A couple of policemen build a small fire outside one of your houses, and you go all weak in the knees and are sure your life is forfeit. No, I don't believe that. Marks was sputtering now. That's not true. They were going to kill me. Chauncey Higby stepped in front of him, his face a mask of anger now. He grabbed Foster's arm. I told you we wouldn't listen. Let's get out of here. Foster shook him off. Just shut up, all of you. He whirled back around. You think what you like, Steed, but I'm telling you, Joseph Smith is trying to silence us. He won't succeed. There are too many of us now. We have close to 200 in the church who are with us in this. We know too much. We are too great a threat to
There's
him.
a
And if we
barn, I
can't
think.
stop this
Yeah, I
abuse of
know.
power, then your life is in danger too. How long do you think they'll tolerate non-Mormons among them? They're after ultimate power, Steed. Ultimate power. And that includes power over life and death.
What?
You got a lot of dust in
I'm
here.
terrified, Joshua said
That's what
dryly.
happens when you open the window.
Maybe that's why
That's
you
what
gave
happened
your
when I
wife
opened
and
the
kids
window?
permission to be baptized,
Really?
Yeah.
William Law sneered.
Especially when there's a lot of
Be sure to
sand.
be safe. William Law was a large and powerful man, but that never entered Joshua's mind. His hand shot out and grabbed the man's shirt front. He yanked him in close and shoved his face up next to his. What did you say? He asked in a menacing whisper. Foster leaped forward and gripped plural marriage. I could be Joseph Smith's best friend. I admire the man, not the prophet, but the man. Only a fool can see Joseph Smith for what he is. A powerful leader, a brilliant strategist. Come on, he said in disgust. Do you think he's come to all of this? He waved an arm in the direction of Nobu. By being a fool? If you don't take the measure of your enemy, you're going to have your tail whipped. We know what we're up against, Foster muttered sullenly. Do you? Shall I tell you something, Foster? Something you don't know? What? You know what Joseph called you people when he gave the policemen their charge from the mayor? He called you doughheads. Do you want to know why? Because at that point, he didn't know who the traitors were. He had no names. At the flash of astonishment in Foster's eyes, Joshua laughed contemptuously. That's right. Rockwell was told that someone here was trying to betray Joseph, but he paused for effect. He didn't get any names. Or so he says, Foster muttered. You want to know what Joseph is saying now? After your friends here started bawling to the city council that they had been unjustly accused and that their lives were in danger, Joshua said, pouring in. What? It came out with complete insolence. Joseph's asking questions like this. Why is it when I say we have a traitor in our midst, but name no one, William Noble and William Marks start squealing like pigs in a panic? In fact, here's a direct quote from Joseph, according to my father. Is it that the wicked flee when no man pursueth? Could it be that it is the hipped bird that always flutters? Joshua quoted derisively. Talk about doughheads. At first, no one wanted to believe Rockwell's report that someone in the highest councils was betraying Joseph. It was too wild, too improbable. And now, you have managed to convince the whole city that it's true. Well done, I say. Well done. Listen, you. Joshua's face was a cold mask now. No, you listen. I'm not sure I'd want to be part of this, even if I thought you could succeed. But I always make it a rule of thumb to stay away from fools. With that, he spun on his heel and walked out of the trees. Francis Higby started to swear loudly, hoping Joshua would hear him. Chauncey gave one expletive and spun around. He moved away in the opposite direction, thoroughly disgusted with the whole farcical situation. But Foster ignored them both. He was still staring at Joshua's disappearing figure. The two Law brothers came forward to stand beside him. There's no way you're going to get him to throw in with us, Wilson said. Chauncey's right about that part, at least. It'll never happen, William Marks said in disgust. His whole family are Mormons. He claims he's no lover of the church or Joseph Smith, but he isn't going to turn against his own kin either. Foster swung on them, angry at their stupidity. You still don't see it, do you? See what? Wilson Law said. Joshua Steed is known up and down this river. He's got friends from St. Louis to La Crosse. A lot of people respect him. We need that kind of influence. Well, let's offer him $1 or $2 and see if he'll come in with us, Francis said with sneering sarcasm. Now it was Foster who was disgusted. He's right. You are doughheads. Don't you see? We don't have to turn Steed against the church. He's already there. All we've got to do is give him a good reason to join up with us. And just how do we do that? William Law asked. I don't know, Foster admitted, turning to where they could see through the willows that Joshua was back out on the ice, cutting the next block. But I'm going to give it a lot of thought. You can count on that. Marianne stopped as they reached the door of Caroline's house. Are you sure about this, Melissa? She asked, watching her daughter with concern. You know that none of us want to press something on you that you are not comfortable with. They all wanted me to make sure you understood that, especially Mary. Melissa hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'm sure, Mama. I would like to hear what Mary has to say, but... Her head dropped slightly. I don't think it will make any difference. Marianne watched her daughter, thinking back across the years. Marianne had given birth to 10 children, 6 girls and 4 boys. But Melissa and Rebecca were the only girls who had survived. So in a way, Melissa was Marianne's first daughter. Melissa would celebrate her 33rd birthday in about 4 years, and she was now the mother of 4 children, and in the first stages of expecting her 5th. Maturity and motherhood had been very good to her.
Okay, it's a bit windy out here, so I'm just gonna see how this works. But today, Allison and I took a drive down to this Mount Trumbull Schoolhouse here in Arizona. It's about 50 miles from St. George. So, a little information plaque here about the schoolhouse. An old bell that you could ring if you wanted to. I'm gonna go in here because the door's open. It's open to the public, so this is the inside of the schoolhouse. It's an interesting area here. Mount Trumbull Schoolhouse reconstruction, October 13th, 2001. The date that Allison and I got married. Thanks to all who helped. Grand Canyon Parashant. The original schoolhouse restoration, 1994. Schoolhouse burned July 31st, 2000. Schoolhouse reconstruction, 2000, 2001. So the original schoolhouse burned down. And they reconstructed, this was a reconstruction of it. Must have been really interesting to live in this area, early 1900s. Just photos of the Bundy family. It's a lot of Bundys that are from this area.
Class? School isn't?
Oh, come on. I'm out of school. This is a topographical map area here.
So, how bad is that outhouse?
I don't have a clue. This has a list of different landmarks. Homesteads. Whitmore Canyon. So this kind of shows the area, kind of topographical area. It's kind of cool. These little wooden birds. Teacher's contract. Blackboard. Now that's an interesting desk. Kind of a historic little area. More photos of the Bundy family. Wow. Old time desk. So that gives you an overview of what this Mount Trumbull Schoolhouse looks like.
Leaned forward to stand directly in front of her. The other two came up behind her. Higby leaned on the counter and looked at her with open admiration. He had always found Emma to be a handsome woman. He also knew that she intensely disliked him and that his boldness unnerved her. "The tools are over there," she said, pointing down the counter to one wall. "Could you show me?" Appleby asked innocently. With a shrug, she nodded and started forward. Behind her, Higby raised an arm and motioned frantically. At the back of the store, the door opened a crack, and then Robert Foster slipped inside. Bent over in half a crouch, he made his way up the stairs and was soon out of sight. Appleby, who had been following Emma, suddenly stopped and looked at Higby, who nodded. "On second thought," Appleby said, "I'd like to look at some material for my wife, please."
Grand Canyon Parish National Monument.
Joseph listened to Olivia for almost a quarter of an hour and said virtually nothing. Occasionally, he would ask a clarifying question or murmur an assent to something Olivia said. But for the most part, he just listened. He was pleased to note that as she got it all out, that her voice gradually calmed and her demeanor became less troubled. When she was finally finished, he sat back, pursing his lips and making a steeple of his fingers. "Thank you, Libby," he said kindly. "I'll bet it wasn't easy for you to come and see Brother Joseph, was it?" She smiled back at him, looking so much like Caroline that it was eerie. "No, it wasn't." "Well, I'm glad you did. The first thing I want you to do when you get home is sit down and tell your mother everything." Her face twisted with brief pain, but also relief. "All right. She'll understand. Your mother is a wonderful woman, Libby." "I know." "Now, let me say a word or two about what you heard. But before I do, I must ask something of you, Libby." "All right." "I wish I could reveal all I know to the saints, but they are not ready to receive it yet. Sometime in the future, this will be spoken from the housetops. But for now, we must be wise. Therefore, in a very real way, I am about to put my life in your hands by telling you some of these things. So I must have your word that you will not speak to anyone else besides your mother about what we discuss here today. Do you understand?
Yes, Brother Joseph. You have my word on it.
You can't speak of it to anyone. Not your dearest friends, not even Will or your father. Not unless I release you from this vow. If you feel that you cannot keep this promise, then we shall finish now and you will be free to go. I will not respect you any less for not wishing to take the burden of such a vow. For a burden it will be. Agreed.
Go.
Olivia was greatly impressed that Joseph would even consider sharing such important things with her, and she found his trust strangely exhilarating.
I swear.
She finally said. Good. Now he sat back, obviously relaxing. I'm not going to go into all of how this came to be. Your mother can tell you that if she chooses. But since you know about the general principle,
There's some stuff
I
over
must
there.
say I'm glad
Yeah,
you
I
heard
know.
from whom you did. Mary Fielding Smith is an admirable woman. Strong.
I remember it's February. Still,
Olivia nodded.
when this is said, there's
And to have your grandmother and your mother and your aunts there too. You are blessed to be part of a wonderful family, Libby.
I know.
He leaned forward slightly, suddenly quite earnest. Do you believe what Mary said about Robert Thompson coming to me? She bit her lip, then nodded.
I guess so.
Olivia, I want you to hear it from my own lips. Robert Thompson did come to me from the spirit world and told me to have my brother marry Mercy Thompson. I testify to you that this is true. It is not something I would lie about. He was watching her closely now. Do you believe me? Now there was no hesitation.
Yes, I do, Brother Joseph.
He visibly relaxed. Bless you for your faith, Libby. There are many who think I am lying about all this. That for selfish reasons I say God has commanded me to do this thing. Or they think I am being deceived by Satan.
I don't think that.
Olivia said, surprised to realize she really meant it. It had done much for her to talk about Libby. What if I were to come to you right now and say, Olivia Steed, you are to be wife to Heber C. Kimball, or Brigham Young, or John Taylor? She paled.
I don't know.
She stammered. Joseph's face immediately softened. Please, he said quickly, I'm just using this as an example. Right now, the Spirit whispers that you are not expected to live this long. Nor, he said as an afterthought, are any of your family going to be asked to live it right now. Her relief was so real she could almost taste it. That's good, she breathed. But do you see what I'm saying, Olivia? That is what I mean by a test. Ask your mother about the test that Heber and Babati Kimball had to
This is
face.
so cool.
Tell her I said that she
this
is
is
free to
going
share
up
that
towards
with you.
Mount Trumbull
Then you begin to sense what I mean.
Wilderness area.
And though you are still young, you must prepare yourself to
Still
respond to whatever
can't believe my
God
dad
may
and I
ask
took
of you,
our truck
whether that's plural
this
marriage
road.
or some other thing.
I understand.
She said a little shakily.
I don't know if I'm strong enough.
Olivia, he said in great earnestness now, from this
You can
very
see
day,
where that
I
Mount
want you to
Trumbull
start
Schoolhouse
praying
is
for two
down there.
things every night and morning.
What?
You can see where the Mount Trumbull House is
I
down
want you
there.
to ask God to give you
Can't
faith.
see it.
I don't
Down
know
there,
what
straight
all the
down
future
there.
holds for us, but I know it is going to take great faith. Ask your Heavenly Father to strengthen you so you can face whatever comes. Second, I want you to ask your Heavenly Father if I am truly His servant. Not just was I His prophet, but
Just
am I
a little
now?
bumpy, honey.
Do I still
Yeah, it's
speak for
bumpy.
Him?
It's rough.
I think I understand, Brother Joseph.
Good.
What?
He
It's a
stood
little
and she
hard,
stood too.
honey.
What do you mean
He went to
hard?
the door and opened it. As she went to leave, he smiled down at
I'm
her.
having fun, but kind of bumpy and
All that
hard
matters
too.
is that we
The
do
rough road?
God's will, Libby. And when we do, he blesses us. Even when it seems like he is making our lives so painful we can hardly bear it, he only designs to bring us greater happiness and joy. That is his whole purpose, to make his children happy. She sighed, feeling as though the weight of 1,000 days had been lifted from her.
Thank you, Brother Joseph. I'm glad I came to see you.
On impulse, he held out his arms and she stepped forward. He gave her a quick hug, then kissed her on the top of her head. I hope my Julia turns out to be just like you, young lady.
Thank you, Joseph.
She said, stepping back.
And I hope someday that I can learn to even have half as much faith as you do.
He laughed. Let me tell you something, Olivia. If my enemies think I claim to be perfect, they are fools. I am but a rough stone. The sound of the hammer and chisel was never heard on me until the Lord took me in hand. And it has been a painful process at times.
Really? Even for you?
Even for me. Not long ago, I told the saints that I am like a huge rough stone rolling. You have a good head for boiling things down to their essence. Would you be so kind as to assist me in reviewing the statement once it is finished? Then I would like a brief summary of that document that outlines its major points. Nathan dropped his head slightly, surprised but pleased. I would be honored to help in any way possible, Joseph. We shall reconvene in a few days to consider the draft and make revisions thereto. Nathan was in the mayor's office, working laboriously from the long draft that Phelps of Bernheisel had titled General Smith's Views of the Powers and Policy of the Government of the United States. He made a mistake in spelling and muttered something under his breath as he crossed it out. Now, careful, Brother Nathan, a voice said from the door. You wouldn't want a menial task to drive you to profaning, would you? Nathan grunted as Joseph came into the room to stand beside him. How is it coming? Nathan pushed his chair back, frowning deeply. You have other scribes, Joseph. They are so much better than me in these kinds of things. Joseph peered over his shoulder at the sheets of paper. Nathan, you're not to be worrying about correct spelling, or if a sentence sounds just right. What I need from you is a simple summary of what our position is. You and I have been friends for many years. You know what is important to me, how I think, what I feel. That's what I need you to do. Then we'll let the literati fix it, all right? Nathan sighed. I suppose. He reached over and retrieved his previous sheet. It's right here. He started to hand it to him, but Joseph waved him off and dropped into a chair. Read it to me, Nathan. I want to hear how it sounds. All right. I've summarized it into 7 points. Good. Let me hear them. Well, first of all, the noble sentiments on the purpose of the United States government are reviewed. This part draws heavily on the words of Benjamin Franklin, as well as statements from several of the inaugural addresses of some of our previous presidents, Washington, Jefferson, Madison, and so on. Good. Good. Go on. Second, the proposal is made that the size of Congress be reduced by 2/3, with 2 senators per state, and only 2 representatives per million population. Also, that congressional pay and power be reduced so that our officers serve the people more faithfully. Joseph chuckled. That should raise some hackles in those hallowed halls. But pay them $2 a day, I say. That is more than a farmer gets, and he lives honestly enough. Nathan nodded. Third, let there be significant prison reform. And in this vein, it is proposed that many people now in prison be pardoned, that public service sentences be established for lesser crimes, and that our prisons be turned into seminaries of learning rather than places of rigor and seclusion, which change no man for the better. Yes, that's good. Fourth, that the United States government abolished slavery by 1850, not by mere fiat, but by raising money through the sale of public lands and through the reduction of the salaries for congressmen. Then, with that money, the government will purchase the slaves from their masters so that the slave owners will not be economically ruined. That will be very popular in the North, but totally rejected in the South, said Joseph. But be that as it may, I say break off the shackles from the black man, and let him earn his bread for wages, as is the privilege of other men, and he shall be blessed. Nathan continued. Fifth, let military court-martial for desertion be abolished. Make honor the standard of the soldier, and desertion will cease to be a problem. Sixth, practice greater economy in state and national government, so that the people are not so heavily taxed. And finally, number 7.
I have to clean the tires when we get back, I bet you
In
anything.
each state and
Just
territory.
go through a car
One
wash.
of the purposes of this
Well,
bank would be
I
to
don't know if that's
circulate
gonna
the
clean out
standard
the
median
tires.
It
exchange.
will. By the time we
Ethan
get
laid
to
the paper down.
St. George, well, hurricane will not,
Good.
then it will,
Good. Joseph
we'll
said
be
again.
driving on pavement, so that's gonna help too. So
We will read the entire document, but I would like you there to first give your summary. It will help clarify their minds on the matter. I
it's
think
going through some mud.
Yeah,
He
I'm
started
looking
to
at the
straighten the
mud
papers.
flicking.
Is there anything
Yeah,
else
well,
you
the
need?
back window's dirty too, so
Before he could answer, there was a knock.
I didn't really, I didn't know what to expect of
William Weeks, the
here
temple architect, was
on
there.
Mount Trumbull.
He had a thick roll of plans under his arm. Now, Brother Joseph, he said, obviously not in a jovial mood. Do you have a minute that I may talk with you? I was just leaving, Nathan said, standing up. No, you weren't, Joseph said. Sit down. Brother Weeks doesn't have any great secrets he's trying to hide, do you?
There's not really all that much
Weeks smiled.
up here,
Hello,
you
Brother
know.
Joseph. Weeks looked at Nathan. And how are you, Brother Steed?
What?
I'm fine.
I'm surprised
It's good to
that,
see you again. The tempo seems to
that
grow
there's not
higher
as
with
much
every
snow
passing
up
day.
here.
Thank you.
Is this the road that DJ
What can I
Jules
help
went
you
on?
with, Brother Weeks?
Yeah, they
Joseph
came up
asked.
here, but they did that in May.
Weeks withdrew the plans from beneath his arm and waved them at Joseph, instantly agitated.
You gotta
again.
remember it's February here, not
circular
even,
Yeah,
not
I
even.
know,
Brother
but I
Joseph.
just was
We simply
curious,
must
that's all.
discuss this matter further. He started to unroll the plans, but Joseph shook his head. I don't need to see them, William. I am very familiar with them. And as I have said on more than one occasion, the circular windows are designed to light the offices in the deadwork of the arch between the two stories.
Whoa, that is sliding.
Woo!
Sir,
That's what
I
you
have
call
been an
sliding.
architect and builder for many years.
I don't know,
have a
but it's
reputation
neat.
of some renown back in New England.
That's what's
Can I tell
called
you,
sliding in the
round windows in
blood.
the broad side of a building are a violation of all the known rules
Wow.
of architecture. The building is too
I'm
low
gonna put it
for
in
round
four-wheel
windows.
drive low.
They must be semicircular, or the whole will look completely out of balance. There was a patient
hoping
smile,
that we
and
can-
then Joseph laid his arm across Weeks' shoulder.
Make it at least a
Brother
hurricane
William,
before it
I tell
stops.
you again,
What?
I will have
We'll
the
be able
circles,
to.
even if we have to make the tempo 10 feet higher than we originally calculated.
This will give us better traction
Close your
anyway,
eyes
so
for
if
a
we put it in
moment.
four-wheel
See if you
drive
can
low.
picture this in your mind. Inside the temple,
Yeah,
there
but
will be
still be
one
careful,
light in the
because we
center
could
of each
I know.
window
mud hydroplane
sufficient
too.
to light the
What?
whole
We can
room.
mud hydroplane.
From the
Oh, we want
outside,
mud
when the whole building
hydroplane.
is thus illuminated, the effect
But it
will
gives
be
us more,
remarkably
it gives us better
grand.
traction.
Yeah, but if we, you know
Brother
how
Joseph,
we slid a minute ago? If we
Yeah.
didn't have control of the wheel, we would have
I wish you to carry out
flipped
my
all the
designs.
way and went backwards.
This is not just a whim of Brother Joseph's, you see. If you
This
remember,
little section
in the
might be a little
revelation
bit
which
more
commanded us to
treacherous
build
though here.
another temple here, the Lord
Just be
said,
careful, 'cause
and I will show unto
Just
my
go
servant
slow.
Joseph all things pertaining to this house. I know, but
do you have what's his name number
Joseph shook his
memorized?
head at the man,
Who?
chiding him gently.
That
William, the Lord has kept his promise.
Good luck on that because we
I
don't
had
have any
not
cell
wanted to
phone
say this
reception up
before,
here,
lest
do
you
we?
think I was trying to force your
I
hand.
don't know,
But you need to know that I have seen this house in
That's the
vision.
thing.
And what I
Get this
saw
far
there
down
were
here.
circular windows. I saw the splendid appearance
By
of
the
that
way, when I
building
said
when
that,
it was
I was
all
only
illuminated.
teasing.
I know.
There was a long pause. Weeks had bowed his head in submission now.
I mean, this is... I didn't know what to expect, so coming up here in the middle of February
Yes, Joseph, I understand.
might have been, you know, not a real good idea, but, you know...
Maybe in future architectural books, they will amend that silly rule about circular windows and say,
I don't know.
William Weeks, the
Maybe
Roman
it's a
architect, who
What?
overturned it.
It's like a... I'm guessing it's like a piece of a car, but I couldn't know.
Something like that.
He walked into the kitchen, gave her a quick kiss, won himself a frown by pinching a healthy wad of dough from the kneading board, then sat down. How was the summary? She asked. Joseph seemed pleased.
Getting a little bit more...
It's interesting, isn't it? He said quietly. What's that?
I just don't want to get
Living
stuck,
next door
that's
to
the
a prophet
thing.
of God. She
You
gave
don't
him a
get
strange
stuck.
look. Well, I don't mean literally next door to it, but close by.
If it's any more worse, then I might just turn around and go back the other
We
direction.
see him every day.
Well, how
We go
many
to a
miles
store
are
and
out
buy
back?
things from him. He wears an apron and dusts the shelves.
This
We
way.
go to
I
his
don't
home
know.
and sit around the table with him and eat bread and cheese. He smiled, remembering snow fights and ice sliding. He plays with our children. She wasn't yet sure exactly where all this was leading. She nodded anyway. And yet,
There's gotta be a sign that comes up
he
here
gets
this way.
revelation.
So let's say we just keep going this way.
Oh yeah, I was trying to go this
He
way.
tells us
Just...
how to extend the gospel to those who have died. He looked up at her now, his eyes contemplative and filled with wonder. He sees circular windows on a building that hasn't even been built as yet. What? What do you mean, circular windows? He chuckled softly. I'll tell you about that tonight, but for now, I'd better go find Father. He probably thinks he's running this business all by himself anymore. He stopped again. But it's easy to forget he's the prophet when he's also your next-door neighbor, isn't it?
Nothing like getting the towel dirty.
Chapter 36.
Well,
Joshua and Will Steed
can
returned
wash
to
it.
Nauvoo from Wisconsin late in the evening of the 20th of February. They came overland by stage and rented carriage. The weather had turned quite warm for this early in the year, and even the ice along the riverbanks was about gone now. Farther north, the ice on the river was breaking up, and they
What
were
we have for a
the
rifle,
main
right?
current. It would be a few more weeks before
What?
the riverboat
I said,
traffic
yeah,
would open up
that's
and
what I
start plying the Great Inland Highway again. So overland routes had been their only choice. Caroline sent word to the family the next morning that her men were back home and that there would be a family dinner that
did you
evening
guys
to
go this
celebrate
way
their
on the way
return.
home? You and your dad? Or no?
Yeah, but we
Immediately,
did
the
that
women
in
put
like
their heads
March.
together to decide who would bring what.
And there wasn't
and then
even
spent
any
the better part of the day preparing the food to feed such a group.
any snow at all.
They met at 6 and ate.
There wasn't
heartily.
even any mud
Then,
or anything on the
protesting that
road.
it was too warm for coats, but losing the battle with their parents, the children went outside to play. Over warm blackberry pie and raspberry ice cream whipped up by Derek and Peter early.
Alright, we're here at this little information area for Mount Trumbull Wilderness Area. Right here is the location, Mount Trumbull Trailhead. Historic sawmill. We just came up over here from the Mount Trumbull Schoolhouse. And there was little patches of snow and, well, mud came through here, so Information Quarry Ox. So we're going to be going through this way and then back towards Highway 389 that goes towards Colorado City and Hilldale. Obviously, if we're taking a drive, this right here talks about the area, people of this place, pioneers, James W. Nixon, just different aspects of this area of Mount Trumbull. There's nothing on this side. People of this place, well, this also has some more information here. Oh gosh, I just stepped in some mud. So that's interesting to know. Here's an overlook of the Tahoe after I'm going through some mud and getting a bit dirty. So this is Mount Trumbull Wilderness area. Let's see how dirty the Tahoe got after the mud. Gonna definitely have to get a wash when I get back to St. George. But this is Mount Trumbull Wilderness area. It's kind of a nice day. It's the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. This is the signage for the Mount Trumbull trailhead. I'm gonna see what the sign says over here. Might have some information on it. Hopefully. Oh yeah, it does. Hauling pine on the Temple Hill. So the pioneers traveled up here to get pine to build the St. George Temple. Interesting aspect of this area is that they would come down here, Mount Trumbull, and haul pine. You can pause the video and read the information if you want. But that explains the area up here. It would be kind of nice. It would be kind of nice to hike up here sometime. And so this kind of explains the area. I'm gonna go around this other area, this other way to that other information block. Interesting area. History. Igniting a recovery. Talks about fires here in this area. So pretty much it talks about forest fires in this area. Fires in ponderosa pine forest are a natural occurrence, essential to forest health. Again, you can pause the video and read the information. I'm going to stop them and continue on.
They were standing, they could see past the first house and into Granger Street.
iPod.
A tall figure was walking toward them, evidently coming from the direction of the South River landing. He was tall, dressed in a black coat and hat, and carried a suitcase in one hand. Nathan leaned forward, staring in astonishment. Then he gasped, "Will?" At that moment, Will Steed saw them as well. He was headed for his own home, which was across from Nathan's, but he immediately changed directions, raising one hand to wave. "It's Will!" young Joshua cried, darting away. "Oh, my word!" Benjamin breathed in astonishment. "It is Will. Will's home." Benjamin had been right. Exactly 1 year before, as he and Nathan had stood with the family around the piano singing Christmas carols, he had said that he fully expected that the next Christmas Eve would find him in that same place doing exactly the same thing. And so it had been. The previous night, they had had their traditional Christmas gathering for the children. Now, on Christmas Day, the adults were getting their turn. Joseph and Emma invited about 50 couples to the mansion house on Christmas Day for a sit-down dinner. As the evening wore on, the party continued. In the largest room, the furniture had been moved out, and members of the Nauvoo Legion band played music while sets of couples danced the quadrille. It was a merry and noisy crowd that spilled over into almost every room on the main floor. When the Saints first came to commerce in the early summer of 1839, Joseph and Emma had purchased an existing cabin on the south part of the Great Bend, right next to the river. They called it the homestead, and had lived there ever since. During that time, it had served as church headquarters, family gathering place, hotel, and infirmary, as well as their residence. But the rapid growth of the church was bringing Joseph Smith and the Mormons to the attention of the world, and more visitors were stopping off at Nauvoo, and the homestead just wasn't adequate to house them. With the temple taking the full efforts of the Saints, work on the Nauvoo house, a large hotel across the street from and a bit to the south of the homestead, was stalled. In light of that, Joseph decided to build another residence, one that would better serve his family's needs and his requirements as frequent host until the Nauvoo house could be completed. Kitty corner to the northeast from the homestead, the mansion house as it quickly came to be called, was a beautiful two-story frame building and had 21 rooms, including a spacious area for entertaining guests. When his family had moved in about the 1st of September, Emma Smith finally had a home worthy of the demands placed upon her as wife of the prophet. Went into the next room, he could see his own family dancing now. He saw Matthew and Jenny march by, with Rebecca and Derek opposite them. In the far corner, Catherine watched from her wheelchair, with shining eyes, clapping in time to the music. Jenny had her head tipped slightly back, and her long hair bounced slightly as she moved. Matthew looked down at her, handsome and smiling too. Rebecca was trying to look appropriately sober, but Derek was exaggerating his steps so that he looked very much like an English dandy, and finally she couldn't hold back. Nathan heard the burst of her laughter above the noise. "Who would have guessed that of Derek?" Lydia said, smiling beside him. "I guess the music brings out the boy in him," Nathan said. And then, as he looked around at the crowded room filled with laughing, smiling, chattering people, he frowned slightly. It would have been so good for Melissa and Carl to be here. Here in the afternoon, the adults settled in to visit. The news from Wisconsin was good. Jean-Claude Dubuque, now in full partnership with Joshua, was proving to be an able businessman. There had been a good harvest of trees through the winter, and the sawmill now had great stacks of sawn lumber ready to be made into rafts once spring broke. Joshua announced that the Frenchman felt confident enough in his crews that he could bring the rafts down without Joshua's going back up again. At that, Caroline stood and applauded enthusiastically. "Well,